India successfully tested a scramjet engine for the first time. Why don't we use scramjet engines in fighter planes? DRDO has successfully conducted a ground test of a scramjet engine, which can be used in Mach 5 hypersonic missiles. What are my views on this? And what are my thoughts on the DRDO conducting a key test in scramjet technology development? And what is a scramjet engine? And Shah Nisar has been listening to me for 3 years. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Okay. So let's begin with what is a scramjet engine, right? A scramjet engine is so there are various kinds of propulsion technologies. Okay, um, when it comes to missiles, you have solid fuel missiles, liquid fuel missiles, which uses cryogenic technology. Then you have scramjets. Now, scramjets are used only for cruise missiles, not for rockets that are supposed to go outside of the atmosphere and place things into orbit. I'll tell you why. So, because of that, you can't even use scramjets for ballistic missiles unless you're using them as one of the first stages or something. Because ballistic missiles, they exit the atmosphere, do a parabolic trajectory, and then re-enter the atmosphere. So, scramjets cannot be used for ballistic missiles unless it's in the first or second stage or something, and they can't be used for the PSLV, GSLV, Starship kind of rockets. You can't. So a scramjet is a super combusting ramjet engine. A ramjet engine is an engine that can accelerate your vehicle to Mach 2 to Mach 5. Mach 1 is 1 times the speed of sound. Mach 2 is twice the speed of sound. Mach 5 is 5 times the speed of sound. Okay. So ramjet engines, they work efficiently at supersonic speeds between Mach 1 to Mach 3. And they can operate up to Mach 5 also, but they become inefficient around Mach 5 and higher than that because of various technical reasons. So a ramjet engine typically works best around Mach 2, Mach 3. The BrahMos missile has a ramjet engine, okay, which is the second stage of the BrahMos. The first stage is a conventional solid state rocket, which accelerates the missile to beyond Mach 1, and then the ramjet takes over, and then it takes the missile to Mach 2 or wherever it is. So that's what a ramjet is, and a scramjet is something that is a super combusting ramjet, super combusting supersonic ramjet. So it if for a scramjet needs the air inflow into the engine to be at supersonic speeds, and then it will accelerate the missile or the vehicle to hypersonic speeds, which is in excess of Mach 5, Mach 6. Okay. So what is supersonic speed? It is about Mach 1 to Mach 5. Okay. One time, 1 times the speed of sound to 5 times the speed of sound. Hypersonic speeds are Mach 5 to Mach 10, or maybe Mach 5 to Mach 10. Then you have high hypersonic speeds, which are Mach 10 to Mach 25 thereabouts, and then you have re-entry speeds, which is Mach 25 or higher, which is typically ballistic missiles and meteorites and all that. Mach 25 or higher. So the Russian Sirkon missile has a maximum speed of about Mach 9 or Mach 10. It has a scramjet engine. So scramjets, like I said, are designed to they work most efficiently at hypersonic speeds, and ramjets work best at supersonic speeds. And these engines, they use, so when you have an engine, you have a fuel and you have an oxidizer. The fuel could be whatever. It could be aviation fuel, which is kerosene. It could be cryogenically liquefied gases like hydrogen or methane, uh, and so on. And your oxidizer is typically oxygen or hydrogen peroxide or whatever. Okay. So in a scramjet and a ramjet, the oxidizer is the oxygen of the atmosphere. So these engines, the only fuel they have is either whatever, um, liquefied hydrogen or methane or maybe some other form of fuel, and the oxidizer is always taken from the atmosphere itself. Okay. Now India has successfully tested about a week or so ago, or recently, a scramjet engine. Is that the first time India has successfully tested a scramjet engine? It's not. So let us go to ISRO's website and take a look at this. This is an article from 2006, January 10, 2006. ISRO achieves breakthrough in supersonic combustion technology. Okay, the Vikram Sarabhai Center of ISRO at Thiruvananthapuram in January 2006 successfully carried out the design, development, characterization, and realization of a scramjet. Through a series of ground tests, a stable supersonic combustion was demonstrated for nearly 7 seconds with a inlet Mach number of 6. Mach 6, 6 times the speed of sound. This was 2006. Okay. Now, then you have this other piece of news, which is from where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where's the date, bro? 1 second. I think it's 2016. Yeah. So there was a successful flight testing of a scramjet by ISRO on August 28, 2016. So as you can see, ISRO and whoever in the government of India has been developing a scramjet engine, and the first news that we have is from 2006, where you had a ground test. Then you had a flight test in 2016, and now in 2025 we have carried out another ground test. It looks like. Where is the question? Yeah, ground test. So as you can see, the development is slow, and India becomes one of the few nations with this technology. But we need to put that engine on an actual aircraft or missile and demonstrate that it works fine, and then induct it into the armed forces. That's what we need to do. It's been more than 20 years we've been developing this. Now, what I'm saying is not criticism of the engineers who are working on this. This is a very difficult technology to master. When your air intake has supersonic speeds, it's very hard to sustain combustion in that case. It's like trying to keep a candle lit during a hurricane, during a cyclone. It's almost impossible, but you've got to master this technology. So it takes time to do this, but we have been doing this for quite some time, and I think now it's time for us to finally deploy this technology, hopefully. uh, of course, you have to give some criticism, because development of technology in India takes a very long time, longer than it typically should. And it's not the fault of the engineers and scientists. It's typically because of the bureaucracy and the slow speed at which your funding is allocated and all that. So a lot has to do with the bureaucracy, and a lot has to do with the political leadership, which maybe don't see these technologies as something that is high priority over freebies and all that. I don't know. I'm just saying. So I think it's a great thing that we have conducted this test. I think we need to take it to its logical conclusion and deploy this technology operationally. Now, the first question by Lost Child over here is, why don't we use scramjet engines in jet planes? So let's say you have a fighter plane like the Tejas, which can go above Mach 1, which is a supersonic fighter plane. Let's say you put a scramjet engine on a Tejas fighter plane. What's going to happen? First of all, you will have to first take the aircraft supersonic in order to be able to ignite the scramjet. So how do you make the aircraft go supersonic in the first place? You will need some other form of propulsion first. Okay. So the scramjet engine, you cannot start it when the plane is stationary on the ground. You can't even start it when the plane is flying at 500 kilometers per hour. It has to go beyond Mach 1. Only then can you ignite the scramjet engine. That's the first thing. Okay. Secondly, let's say you put a rocket booster on the Tejas, and you put two scramjet engines on the Tejas, or one, let's say, and then you use the rocket booster for the initial Mach 1 plus boost, and then you ignite the scramjet. Okay, let's say. Then the scramjet will ignite. It's going to go hypersonic. It's going to go beyond Mach 5. Can this airframe of the Tejas fighter plane, or the Sukhoi 30, or Sukhoi 57, or the Jaguar, or the Rafale, whichever fighter plane you can imagine, can the airframe of that fighter plane withstand a Mach 5 plus flight or Mach 6 plus flight, because at that speed, the air resistance and the friction with the molecules of the atmosphere is going to cause the airframe to have a temperature of hundreds of degrees centigrade. Hundreds of degrees centigrade. Can the airframe withstand that? Can the glass canopy of the cockpit withstand that temperature? It's going to start glowing red. You need special materials for that, like for example, the materials that were used in the SR-81, was it Blackbird? What was it called? SR-81 Blackbird. SR-71 Blackbird. Yes, SR-71 Blackbird. If you want to see what I'm talking about, let me put that on the screen. So the Americans had a hypersonic plane, the Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird, and this aircraft was coated with a special material, and it had all kinds of measures taken that ensure that its structure did not combust or burn up because of the extreme heat and pressure of the atmosphere at those speeds. So a typical normal fighter plane like the Tejas or the Sukhoi 57 or the Sukhoi 30 or Sukhoi 35 or Rafale or whatever can't withstand those speeds. It can't. They're not designed to withstand those speeds. You need a whole different kind of design and shape of the aircraft to be able to withstand hypersonic speeds. It's going to be shaped like a rocket, essentially, right? Uh, there is that. And secondly, if you have a fighter plane that's hypersonic, it won't be able to maneuver the way a standard fighter plane can maneuver at Mach 1 or Mach 2. See, you have some fighter planes that are very maneuverable, like the MiG 21 was the legendary MiG 21, which is now a museum piece, but we still operate it. It's very maneuverable. The Sukhoi fighter planes, because of thrust vectoring, are very maneuverable. They can do the Pugachev Cobra and such maneuvers. When you have a hypersonic plane, you can't do all that hyper maneuvering, and you're traveling so fast you can't even indulge in dogfights. So you can't have hypersonic engines, scramjets, on a fighter plane. You simply can't, because then you can't maneuver at that speed, that maneuvering, dogfighting, all that. So you can use it for reconnaissance planes or missiles. The best use for scramjets is on missiles. So if you want a hypersonic BrahMos, a Mach 9, Mach 10 BrahMos, new version, then you would use a scramjet on it. Right now we use a ramjet. So that's the deal, and it's great that India has tested this technology and developed, shown that we can use it and we are capable of doing it. But we need to take it to its logical conclusion, test it in the air multiple times, and then deploy it. Build new missiles or whatever that use this engine and deploy it operationally. That's what we need to do.